Hello, good afternoon. Lucas here from Maritimes Immigration, and today we're gonna be giving you a few updates about immigration. There's been a lot of changes lately, and I recently attended the National Citizenship and Immigration Conference in Lake Louise, Alberta, and this is part of our professional development. So every immigration consultant is required to have at least 16 hours of courses during the year because immigration is always changing, it's always evolving. So we are required by law to have at least 16 hours of courses, right? So I attended this immigration conference in Alberta in May, and that's a great opportunity for us to meet other immigration consultants, to meet the government of Canada. So IRCC always sends a few of their employees to the conference. So we have a chance to actually talk to IRCC, to meet some of the staff members and ask questions. And they can also give us updates about their plans for the future, what are they thinking on creating new immigration streams, or what is their goal for the upcoming year. So it's a great opportunity for us to catch up to all these updates, right? And have an idea of what is going to happen in the upcoming months. So we can also help our clients, right? And if you have any questions, feel free to write here on the chat. If you want to write in Spanish, Portuguese, or English, that's fine. I'll just answer all the messages in English, if that's okay. And we have basically I have a few topics here I want to cover, but you're also free to ask questions if you want. I'm gonna try to keep it short, about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. But I think that the biggest talking point in the conference last month was an issue that is not just me, but every single temporary resident here in Canada is having the same problem. So it's not only my clients, is that we have more temporary residents than PR pathways. So what does that mean? It means that we have more students and more foreign workers than space for them to become permanent residents. And that's it's a pain point here, because in the end, we have so many people, so many skilled workers, so many international students in Canada, and the reality now is that a lot of people will not become permanent residents. They will eventually go home. And this is something that I always think about every time I have a consultation with someone, and maybe they are not eligible to apply for permanent residence. And we're getting more and more consultations where we have to say, I'm sorry, I don't think you have an option here in Canada to apply for permanent residence now. Maybe you have to try to extend your temporary residence for another year or another 2 years, and then hopefully you will be able to apply for PR. And I thought that maybe it was me, maybe I was missing something. But talking to other immigration consultants at the conference, I noticed that other consultants are having the same problem. They're having the same consultation and talking to clients and saying, I'm sorry, I don't think you're eligible for express entry, and you're not working a high demand job, so I don't think the provincial nominee program is also an option. So these are conversations that are becoming more common. And one statistic that really shocked everyone in the room was that IRCC confirmed that right now we have about 3 million temporary residents in Canada. So that includes students and foreign workers. And they estimate that about 1 million, so a third of these people will leave Canada in 2025. So their expectation is actually to reduce that number. And how they do that, they make things more difficult, and they're putting cap on the number of nominations from the province, and they're also make it more difficult for people to receive invitation to apply in the express entry. So these are not great news, right? So if you're interested in immigrating to Canada, how can you increase your chances if you really want to stay here, if you want to build a life here in the country? So we do have a few strategies that we always advise people. And the first thing you have to understand is that maybe the job you have right now is not what you need to immigrate to Canada, right? So I'm not giving you immigration advice only for Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, but it's more like a general immigration advice. It could be, maybe you're in Alberta, British Columbia, Ontario, it's the same idea. But you have to understand what is your province looking for, right? So for example, in BC, we had a session about BC, and they're targeting people in healthcare, construction, ECE, very similar to Nova Scotia, right? So we're also targeting healthcare, construction. So what is the demand in your province, right? If they're looking for a specific type of skilled worker, maybe you can look into this. Maybe you can study, or maybe you can advance your education career into one of these high demand jobs, right? So that's one option if you have time to do that. Or maybe if you eventually go home, you can also advance your education back home, or you can do that in Canada as well. So that's our advice for people who are working in positions that are not really high demand, but you have the option to change or to advance your education in a specific career. Maybe that's the way for you to become a permanent resident, right? And we're always talking about the economic class. So the economic class is provincial nominee program and express entry, right? So these are people who have work experience, they have education, and they will use that to immigrate. We're not really talking about sponsorship. So if you do get married to a Canadian or permanent resident, yeah, you can apply for permanent residency through the family class, but that's not really the point of the Instagram live today. We're talking more about the economic class, right? So yeah, that's great. So let's say you do have a job offer, or you work in healthcare or construction. I mean, okay, that's a good option. That's you do have options to immigrate, right? So maybe through the provincial nominee program in your region, or you can look into express entry, because they do have high demand categories in express entry too. They are targeting a lot of people in healthcare, in education, right? So ECE, teachers, and they have also a category for trades, right? And the idea here is that, okay, I'm gonna qualify and I will apply through express entry or PNP because I do have the experience, I have the education, and it's high demand. But let's say that's not your case. What else can you do, right? Canada is really, really open to French speakers right now. And the reason why is that the language is dying in Canada. So a lot of people are not speaking French anymore, but French is an official language in the country. And what they're doing now, they want to bring more French speakers outside Quebec. And there are a lot of interesting programs if you're fluent in French, or maybe you're studying French. We do have a special category in express entry where they invite a lot of people, less than 400 points. That's very, very low. So it's really interesting if you want to study and you want to learn a new language. French is the way to go. Because during the conference, IRCC confirmed that they will continue focusing their invitation to apply for people who speak French and people who are already in Canada working, right? So yeah, that's a good question, William, about the Francophone, and that's what the IRCC was talking about during the conference. They said that French is gonna be really important in the next 2-3 years, and that they will continue inviting a lot of people in express entry. So if you do have time, and if you can afford French classes, I mean, that's a really good there's a really good chance for you. because maybe you are 45, maybe you're 39, 40, I don't know. So you're losing points because of your age, but at the same time you're learning French. Maybe you're already fluent in English, right? So that will you can easily compensate the points you lose because of your age. So yeah, you can definitely qualify under the Francophone group. So how do you qualify for that? You need to take a French test, and you need to get at least score 7, right? So it's not like like fluent in French, right? So 7 is kind of like you're an advanced speaker, right? It's kind of like with CELP or IELTS CLB 7. It doesn't mean like you're fluent in the language, but you can easily communicate in the language, right? So my opinion here is that high demand occupation jobs like healthcare, construction, always in high demand. If not, learning French, I believe that will be a really, really good option. And the other thing that really helped me get a better idea and a better feel of what is happening in other provinces is that it's not only Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or Ontario that is not inviting as many people as before, but all the provinces across Canada, they're not inviting as many people, right? Because they receive a cap on the number of nominations they can issue. And this is a big problem, right? Because it doesn't mean that, the problem is me, I'm not qualified enough. Maybe you are qualified and you have a really good profile, but the thing is they don't have enough nominations, right? So if they cannot nominate everyone, yes, they have to select people. It doesn't mean that they're not processing people who are in IT or engineers or admin assistant. The fact is like they can't help everyone. So they will give priority to people who kind of align to their, they're more aligned to their goals. And this is really important for people to understand, because it's not a matter of just changing and moving to another province, right? That was the case before. A lot of people in Ontario or BC, I can't immigrate here in Ontario or in Vancouver. I'm going to move to Nova Scotia, I'm going to move to New Brunswick, and I'm going to get my PR there. That's not the case anymore, right? Because the provinces are not interested in PR hunters anymore. So it means that like if they have someone who is well established in Nova Scotia, they study here, they work here, and they have another person with a similar education, similar work experience, but they moved from Ontario, who are they going to pick to process the application, right? So they are selecting people and they are taking into consideration all these things, right? So if you're stuck in one province and you're thinking about moving to another region here in Canada, just be very careful and plan and see if that's the best option for you. Maybe it is, maybe you have no other options, maybe you do have a job offer here or another place. But you have to be really careful, because now the provinces are taking that into consideration, right? And just be mindful that maybe it will take some time for you to settle in the province. It will take some time for you to get that job offer. Maybe you don't even have time on your work permit to do that, right? And if you do need assistance with that, if you want to know more about the provincial nominee programs and the options you have in the province, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help. We are pretty booked up for the next 2-3 weeks in consultations, but we always available to help any way we can. And if you guys have questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here in this Instagram live, I highly recommend booking a call, right? So we can discuss that in more detail in a private conversation. And the other stats that I want to share with you that it was also discussed during the conference is the reduction that is going to happen in the number of temporary residents in the next years. So Canada, they have a cap on the number of international students. They're capping the permanent residents, they are capping the foreign workers, they are making changes to the labor market impact assessment. So there are a lot of changes happening. And what I recommend, again, work with an immigration consultant or a lawyer just to make sure that you are up to date with all these changes. But what is happening here is that in 2025, their goal is to welcome 395,000 new permanent residents. So that's a reduction of 21% compared to 2024. So just the number of PRs, they're reducing 21%. The number of students in 2025, they're also reducing 10%. So how are they doing that? They introduced the provincial attestation letter, the PAL, and they're also reducing the number of foreign workers 16% to close to 370,000 per year. So even if you're outside Canada, you get a job offer, right? So you have to make sure that you can apply for the work permit, either inside or outside the country. And what does that mean for you in the future, right? So you even if you come to Canada and you can study for 2 years, you get a 3-year work permit, you have 5 years in Canada, or maybe you've been here for 3 years, you have to start planning now what you want to do next year or in 2027. What programs are you eligible and how do you get there, right? Because if you don't have that plan, and you wait until your last year, you're not going to have time, right? Maybe you don't have time to get 1 year of work experience in a specific NOC code. Or maybe you don't have the language skill to get an invitation with express entry. So I think it's really important for everyone to plan. You can do that by yourself, or of course you can get help from a professional. But I see that as being like priority number one. You need to have a plan, right? And I'm just reading a question that popped up here in my screen. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Like I said, you can ask. If you don't feel comfortable writing in English, you can just type your question in the question box there. There's a question mark, so you can just pop your question there. So I just want to see if I can reply this question here. My husband is the main applicant in Tier 0. I'm part-time after-school leader. They consider my job when analyzing our application. Yeah, so I believe you're talking about the express entry. So express entry, they consider a few occupations in the high demand category. So they have education category. So you have to show at least 6 months of work experience in the past 3 years in that specific NOC code. So they do have like teacher assistant, ECE. I think there are like 4 or 5 NOC codes that are included in the express entry category for education. So I recommend looking at that. But yeah, I think they had a couple of rounds of invitation, or maybe one for education. It's very new. It started now in February. So it just goes to show that they're always updating the categories, right? They removed a lot of IT positions. So when they started the categories 2 years ago, they had the IT, the STEM category, and then they are updating, right? So they keep updating that every few months, right? So let's see the other question here. 2 years ago, come to Canada, study at college was a good stream, not today. And now the best way is speaking French after 2 years, who knows? It will be a good, yeah, so yeah, that's a good point, Wagner. I mean, it's very frustrating because you invest a lot of money. It's your life, like you leave your home country, you come here, it's new, and then after 2-3 years you're well established here, and now they change everything. So I understand how frustrating it could be, and especially if you have like family, children, right? So you have children going to school, they have friends. Like, what if you can't stay in Canada anymore and you have to go back, right? So it's really hard to predict what is going to happen with immigration in the next 2-3 years. And one thing that I wasn't planning on discussing today, but I think it's important to briefly bring it up, is that things are not good in the US right now. And in the conference, they were talking about the US immigration. What is going to happen to Canada if things continue to deteriorate in the US, right? Is Canada gonna accept refugees from the US? So that was a big talking point in the conference. How could that impact immigration in Canada, right? Because if they're processing and allowing American citizens to come into Canada, now they're not gonna have time to process PRs or study permits, because now the priority is like we gotta help our neighbor. So what is gonna happen to all these applications and the backlog of applications, right? So the consensus was that in the near future, IRCC will make an announcement about the situation in the US and if they will be welcoming some people, right, from the US, and what does that mean to the borders, right? Because we share a border with the US, and that could have a really big impact in immigration here in Canada. So yeah, just something that we have to consider, and it's not something that great, but I mean, it's happening, right? So we have to keep an eye on what is happening next door. And I believe I had one more thing. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. I have a couple more minutes here. But I just want to make sure that I covered everything that we discussed in the conference. I mean, we had so many other things that we discussed, but I think that was the most important part. It was the sheer number of temporary residents is just massive, and that was a mistake that immigration and the government did a couple of years ago, because they opened the doors so much, they welcomed so many people, that in the end we did have some problems. But I don't think it's fair to say that international students and foreign workers, they are the reason we don't have a good healthcare system, or is because if you consider that temporary residents, students, they are about 7%, 6% of the population. I mean, that's not enough to cause a crisis, right, in healthcare. But yeah, they have to find someone to blame, and I think in the end, international students and foreign workers, they are easy targets, right? You're not gonna criticize Canadians. You're gonna criticize newcomers, right? Because they just arrived, and before it was great. Actually, it was always like that, right? So, you know how it is. So it's not the best time. 2025 is a very difficult year, but I'm sure you guys can get through this. Hopefully, 2026 will be better. 2027, we have a great new immigration minister. So Lina Diab, she is a politician from Halifax. I personally know her. She's a great politician. She's very committed to immigration issues, and I'm sure she will be great as the new immigration minister. And actually, she had we actually posted that yesterday, that she is advocating to review the cap on the international students. She's advocating to review the foreign worker policies, because she believes that we have to continue welcoming people, and we cannot just close our borders, right? So I believe that she's bringing something new to the government, and because the last immigration minister, Mr. Miller, he was very hard on international students and foreign workers. He's the one who implemented the caps, and he's the one who decided to reduce the number of permanent residents. So before Miller we had Sean Fraser. So Sean Fraser was like open borders, everyone should come in, and then things went south, and then they brought in Mr. Miller. He just closed the borders for everyone, and now we have Lina Diab, who is someone new as an immigration minister, but she was also immigration minister here in Nova Scotia, so she has a lot of experience in this department, and hopefully things will improve in the future. And like I said in the past, if you need any help, feel free to reach out. We cannot do magic, but we can work together. We can give you ideas on how you can increase your chances to stay in Canada. Or maybe you're not going to stay in Canada now, but maybe you can go back home, plan again, and come back in the near future. That's always a possibility, right? So just do the right thing. Leave the country when you have to leave. Do not commit any crimes. Do not work without authorization. Do not study without authorization. So if you do everything by the book, there's no reason for you to not come back in the future, right? But if you do things the wrong way, if you're caught working without authorization, if you're caught studying without authorization, if you drop out from your college program, maybe you're not going to be admissible to Canada in the future, right? So do everything by the book. If you have to extend your stay, make sure that you file that extension on time. If you need to restore your status, make sure that you know what you're doing, right? And hopefully things will work out. And if you need help from us, just reach out. We're here to help. All right. So we'll save this Instagram live on our store on our Instagram profile, and we'll also upload on YouTube if you want to watch the full video. It's about 30 minutes, and it's always nice to talk to you guys. And we'll be back soon with another Instagram live. Thank you.